Thank you for this precious opportunity to share my research. And I'm Shan Zhong from Southwest Jiaotong University. I'm a PhD student. Actually, I changed the title of my sharing. Sorry. Um, translating humor for children in Beijia Huang's I Want to Be Good. My sharing includes 4 parts: introduction, theoretical concepts, textual analysis, and lastly, conclusions, limitations, and prospects. Let me first introduce the Chinese novel. 我要做好孩子, translated as I Want to Be Good by Nicky Harman in 2021, written by Beijia Huang, who is a Jiangsu-based writer, was first published in 1996 by Jiangsu Phoenix Juvenile and Children's Publishing Limited. In my research, I chose the 2006 Chinese version by the same publisher. There are other versions, such as the 2006 version by today's Changjiang Children's Publishing Group and the 2022 version by People's Literature Publishing House. According to the Chinese cover from reports of its English publication, I choose this one. Huang once said, "The story of I Want to Be Good was inspired by my personal life. The complicated relationship between mother and daughter. The story portrays the experiences of 11-year-old Ning Jing in her sixth grade with her family's teachers, classmates, and friends. Ning struggles with the pressure of the high school entrance exam with many touching and humorous scenes." Why do I study the translation of this novel from the perspective of humor translation? The novel is replete with heart and humor, stated by Harman on the back cover of Harman's translation. In our interview, Harman describes Huang's narrative style. There's laugh out loud humor, often when you least expect it, and there are moments that make you go ouch. Stephen Gould also highlights humor in this novel by noting her language is full of witty everyday humor too. These comments show that humor is essential to I Want to Be Good. Readers' perceptions of humor vary significantly, as humor inherently depends on texts and contexts. Catrino elaborates on humor in literature, or literary humor, defining it as anything funny inside any piece of fiction, drama, or narrative. So the focus of this study is not on the punchline of jokes, but rather on the funny details woven into plots and characters in literary works. My major research question is how humor studies and translation studies interact with each other. Of course, theories of these two aspects will be involved. My minor 3 questions are: what types of humor emerge in the texts? How does the translator navigate the challenges of translating humor? And are there any cultural variations of translated humor for young readers in English-speaking countries? I use theories of humor to measure the degree of difference between a translated humor and the original throughout my research, and employ the variation theory of comparative literature to investigate cultural-specific humor translation. Definitions of humor vary, and so do theories on this topic. Traditional theories of humor include superiority theory, relief theory, and incongruity theory. There is a script-based semantic theory of humor proposed by Victor Reski, but I focus on the general theory of humor by Salvatore Attardo and Victor Reski in 1991. This theory measures Duke similarity and lists 6 parameters of Duke difference, called knowledge, resources, language, narrative strategy, target, situation, logical mechanism, and script opposition. These are definitions of the 6 parameters. Let's take the second one, for example. By the narrative strategy, for lack of a better term, we mean the genre, or rather micro-genre, as it were, of the Duke. In other words, whether the text of the Duke is set up as expository, as a riddle, as a question and answer sequence, and so on. This screenshot is from Salvatore Attardo and Victor Rasky with examples. For instance, 3 uses exactly the same wording and much of the same syntax as 1, but it is not a riddle. Instead, it is a statement, an assertive expository text. Therefore, Duke 3 differs from 1 in the choice of a narrative strategy. Next is the variation theory of comparative literature. Medial translatology evolved from mediology in comparative literature and explains the interactions between Chinese and foreign literature and cultures. It coincides with the cultural turn in translation studies and the translation turn in cultural studies. Subsequent to the influence studies of the French school and the parallel studies of the American school, research paradigms of the Chinese school of the comparative literature have been put forward. The variation theory is proposed to explain cultural transitions from the perspectives of language, culture, and aesthetics, mentioning the following possibilities: omission, abridged translation, addition, mistranslation, transcreation, and adaptation at the language level, loss, distortion, and proliferation of cultural meanings at the cultural level, degradation, misplacement, and loss of aesthetic experience at the aesthetic level. I will focus on the language and cultural levels. For textual analysis, I concentrate on translations of rhetorical devices and cultural-specific items. For a homogeneous transformation of rhetorical devices, white goose, cockerel, and hyperbole was going to burst are retained. According to the 6 parameters defined in the GTVH, the language knowledge resource is changed, with other 5 knowledge resources being intact, which implies that translation involves language transfer only while maintaining the consistent presentation of rhetorical devices. For a heterogeneous transformation, an analogy is made clear in the target text to compare academic pressure in the past and at present. The vehicle feather in the target text is complemented to achieve the same humorous effect conveyed by the word fly in the source text, which manifests logical mechanisms knowledge resources. For non-transformation, the logical mechanism knowledge resource in the source text is represented by making the analogy prominent. Mom seems to be the scholar, while Nin's mother is a soldier. The ignorant woman, as suggested in the target text. Harman chooses the strategy of free translation to preserve its meaning, which causes a loss of cultural references and a change in style, since the classical allusion is lost. In example 5, the idiom peek out is complemented in the target text. In this example, manifesto with a religious connotation is a fictional character from the Faust legend and embodies the devil. Harman reconstructs the image of white-faced Cao Cao with manifesto to make it understandable for English speakers. The novel employs rhetorical devices and cultural-specific items to create humor. Harman's translation of humor in I Want to Be Good shows her active engagement with the texts by using the strategies of both domestication and foreignization, as she not only stays true to the source text, but also detaches herself from the structures of language, convey underlying meanings of texts. According to the humor similarity measured by the parameters of the GTVH, compared with cultural-specific humor, the humor by rhetorical devices, metaphors, and similes, in particular, is preserved in the target text to a larger extent. There are, of course, limitations or future efforts. This study focuses only on rhetorical devices and cultural-specific items and may ignore other humorous elements. There might be new interpretations of humor and theories of humor. Therefore, more possibilities can be taken into account to analyze humor in children's literature and its translation. This research does not consider the reception of humor by young people. In the future, more attention should also be paid to humor translation for young readers in other literary genres, such as picture books and poetry, as well as other reading careers like children's magazines. The reception of humor translation in children's books can be considered. There are some of my references. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you very much for this first presentation. And for the audience listening here, we will be saving questions for after the next presentation.